There's two key things that stop people from moving forward, and it stops them for months, years, even decades. So the first one is, I don't have an idea. Oh, you don't have an idea? So what does that mean? You're just gonna wait for an idea to fall down from the sky? Oh, I don't have an idea either. You find an idea and you search out for it and you generate hundreds of ideas and then you slice and dice them and test them. So that's number one, the idea that a lack of idea is stopping you. That should never be the case. There are ways to generate ideas and then test them for profitability. That's what we talk about on our site. The second thing is, I don't have any time. Please give me a break. You don't have any time? Yes, you do. So it's almost like if you say, I don't have time, that's a politically correct way to say this is not a priority. Because no one can ever disagree with you and say, hey, you actually have time. It's sort of very politically incorrect to say. But if somebody says, I don't have time, like, yeah, I'm really busy too, man. So don't say that. When you start using phrases to describe yourself in a negative way, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So like I used to say, I'm just a skinny Indian guy. I used to weigh 50 pounds, I was very skinny, I was 50 pounds skinnier than I am now. And I was like, I'm just a skinny Indian guy, I can't put on any muscle. Wrong, I just wasn't eating enough and I wasn't working out. But because I said that, it became part of my identity. So when you say, I don't have time, I'm so busy, or the worst, I'm overwhelmed, then you become overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So if you fix those two things, know that you can find not just one idea, you can find hundreds of ideas. And the second thing is, you do have time. The world is under your control. The world does not control you. If you change those two things, you are very likely to succeed.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 to 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 to 9. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Ramit Sethi, and my take on his top 10 rules for success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, spend on what you love.
I was giving a talk and I asked somebody what they love spending on, and she said clothes. She said she loves buying clothes. I said, great. And she was so excited. I love just, whenever you ask people, their eyes light up. And I asked her, what would it look like if you quadrupled your spending? And she said, I would have clothes everywhere. Like all day long, I'd be ordering online, I'd be sending half of them back. And I said, where do you shop? And she said, Topshop. And I said, okay, so you quadrupled your spending, where would you shop? She said, Topshop, I just have a lot more. And it was fascinating because when you ask people what they love spending on and what, if they could spend more, what would they do? Most people have never thought about it. She had limited herself into the box of Topshop. Now, I don't know, Topshop's perfectly fine, that's fine. But I guarantee you, if you quadrupled or 10x'd your spending on the thing you love, your money dial, you might shop at a different brand. You might even fly to the factory that makes them and get a behind the scenes tour, as I did when we went on our honeymoon. So why I'm sharing this is that so many of us operate in a linear way. Oh, if I have this thing I like coffee, I might get 2 coffees a day. But what if you actually truly love it? You might go to the coffee factory and bring your family with you. So there's this whole idea of what you can do with a rich life, and it doesn't just mean more stuff. It could be experiences. It could be security, like buying a house in a place that keeps you safe, or staying at a hotel where you're around things that are comfortable for you. There's so many different ways to look at a rich life, and most people, I want to challenge them to really think what it would feel like to spend more on the thing they love. Of course, if they cut costs mercilessly on the things they don't.
Rule number 3, do the right thing.
I liken my journey with money to the journey that I took with fitness. About 10 years ago, I decided to get more fit, and I started with a very simple reason, which was pure vanity. I was like, I want to look like that. And I think vanity can be a good reason to get started with something. But I think if any of us have done something that we got good at, whether it be an instrument or programming or a different language, you might start for one reason. What I found is that I ended up falling in love with the craft. and the discipline to go every single day. And to know that, yeah, you might look a certain way, but that's actually a byproduct of all the work that you've put in every single day and perfecting that craft. Same with money. Whereas I used to go after money, now I realize that money's the byproduct of doing all the right things. And I actually remember this as recently as 6 months ago. We're on our honeymoon, and I love hotels. I keep a list of hotels that I want to go to, and like, I love them. And I remember we were staying at the last place on our honeymoon, and we were already happy because we're on our honeymoon and just having the time of our lives. But I remember being even more happy because I was at this dream hotel that I'd been wanting to stay at for years. And I was trying to figure out, why am I so happy, even happier than the baseline? And what I realized was being able to be there with my wife, but also be able to be there and not have to worry about, can we afford this? Or can we order room service? That meant that I had done all the right things for years. I'd showed up at work. I got a team, which is an amazingly talented team. We made the right decisions. We recovered when we made the wrong ones. And now this is the payoff. This is one of the rewards of our rich life.
Rule number 4, learn pricing.
What about online launch, your first launch or your first product maybe? What do you see? What are some big red flags people need to look out for?
One is discounting. So if you truly built a product that's amazing, why on earth would you discount it 50%? It makes no sense.
Wow.
Second, people trying to create their first product that's $1,000 or $2,000, big mistake. We recommend our zero to launch students start at a $50 product. Why? Because you learn certain things at $50, at $500, at $1,000. You learn certain things about what needs to happen in a launch, what kind of pricing psychology you're going to encounter, what type of customers are you going to get. You will learn that at 50, but it's different at 500. And so we want our students to go methodically up the value chain. That's how we went from a $4.95 product to like $12,000.
Yeah.
We didn't just jump from A to Z.
Also, if you want to have more self-confidence and self-belief, the science says it can take up to 254 days of consecutive action for the habit to stick. That's what I want for you. So I've designed a custom free program where I'm going to send you an unlisted video for the next 254 days to shift your confidence and belief forward. The link to join is in the description below.
One of the real reasons we don't do the things that frighten us is because we are afraid of being judged.
I think doubt is one of the greatest enemies of our lives. I want you to write 5 questions down that you're going to ask yourself 3 or 4 times a day. 5 questions that are positive for yourself.
Rule number 5, make your own decisions.
You're the CEO of your business. You decide. If you want to run a McDonald's type of business, awesome. McDonald's is an amazing company. If you want to run a Louis Vuitton style type of business where you're focusing on select customers, you can do that as well. Don't ever let anyone pressure you into one decision. You are the CEO and you decide.
Rule number 6, define your rich life.
Really fast define a rich life for people, because I think that's going to be a key component to this whole discussion.
Well, it's different for everyone. My rich life early on was to be able to go to a restaurant and order appetizers. Because I never did it when I was a kid.
Get it.
Like ever. We would go and we'd eat out once every 4 to 6 weeks if we had a coupon. And we would like share 2 Cokes with the whole family. And we would never order appetizers. So I was like, I'm going to do it. And then the next dream for me was to be able to hop in a taxi if I lived in New York during the summer without having to take the train and sweat before a meeting. Now my dreams got bigger, and there's a variety of things that are my rich life, but everybody's is different. So some people, I have people in my book, they're like, I use your book, my wife and I retired at 35 and 36, we drive around in an RV. I don't want to drive around in an RV. But he and his wife do, and I love that. So a rich life is what you define, and when I ask people what's a rich life to you, they usually say 2 things. Freedom, which is a very nice word, but it's kind of generic. And they say a number, usually $1 million. And I say, like, freedom, what is that to you? And they're like, I want to do whatever I want when I want. And I'm like, get specific. Do you want to order appetizers? Do you want to do yoga at 3 p.m.? And that's where the conversation stops. So if you're watching, I want everyone to think, what is your rich life? And take it from the clouds to the street. I want to buy 3 different Lululemon tank tops a month because I don't ever want to have to wear an old one. Whatever, go as crazy as you want. I want to travel for a month and I want to bring my family with me. Great. A rich life is different for everyone, but is about your definition.
Rule number 7, think big.
In my own life, there are several things I just don't care about. Don't have a TV. I use a MacBook Air that's 7 years old. I know, like, I should probably work off a dual monitor setup, but I just don't care. And I've lived in the same apartment for 10 years and I've rented, and I know the society tells you that renting is throwing money away. That's not true. These are things that I just don't care about. But on the other hand, convenience, I'll spend essentially anything. Hotels, I will spend essentially anything. And there's a few other examples. My wife and I together, we're coming up with our own money dials. Relationships is a big one for us. So I would encourage everyone to really take this concept and think about it. And don't stay at the surface level. If it's fitness like yours, great. Really think about what that looks like. Another woman in DC, she was into fitness too. And I said, what would your life look like if you quadrupled it? She's like, I would be shredded. I was like, love it. Think big. Don't talk yourself out of it. So that is what I've learned about money dials.
Rule number 8, solve a problem.
I see tons of entrepreneurs. They have their design is amazing. They have the best headshots. They get the coolest funnels. They just forgot one thing. They forgot to build something that people actually want. And so you can have the best photography, but if you are not solving a true problem that people are saying, take my money, please take it, then no amount of art is going to help you.
Rule number 9, learn and practice.
I started off with a lot of self-study. I went to watch, at that time, the Tonight Show. It had a ton of celebrities. And if you watch celebrities, they are the absolute best in the world at public speaking. Watch them. Notice their mannerisms. Notice their tonality. Notice their body language when they're telling a story like this versus when they're telling a story like this. And so I started watching. And that was the first part. The second part was I got lots and lots of practice. Public speaking is one of those things, you can't learn it just by reading a book or even watching YouTube videos. You gotta get out there. So if you don't have opportunities to do it like presentations in class or you're speaking on panels or something, where else can you do it? Who else knows? Where else could you find opportunities to practice your public speaking? Toastmasters? Awesome. You can create a book club or join some kind of organization where you have to go around and talk about something. Find a way. And then finally, when I got more intermediate, I started getting more formal training. I did a media training group in New York. I hired a speech coach for my Forefront Chicago speech, was my best speech ever. And that was because I had reached the limits of my speaking ability. So I hired a coach. So that was my trajectory. But I think the key thing is there, number one, you can start with some self-teaching. Number two, you need practice. You need to take a lot of swings. And then if you get more intermediate or advanced, you can hire coaches and things like that.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is don't be a one-note player.
I also think that there are other money lenses, other ways to look at the world. We heard in the back from the woman who said that she loves to spend on convenience, which is my money dial. Feel safe, feel relief, feel luxury and fortunate. Safety is something that we all kind of intuitively get when it's for someone else. Oh, we'll spend extra so that our kids are safe? Never gonna question that. But when it comes to our own spending, we put back that frugality lens so much of the time. It's been drilled into us by society. There are other money lenses. There's the money lens of results. I could get a workout on YouTube, or I can pay a personal trainer for better and faster results. There's experience. Why do you think people go to a really nice restaurant, right? 5+ courses, the experience. There's pure luxury. This sweater is not gonna last 10 times longer than that sweater, but you just want it. And so sometimes we need to, I think of it almost like a musician. You wanna have the note of frugality, but you don't wanna be a one-note player. Sometimes frugality is the perfect note, but sometimes there are other notes you wanna put in. Security, luxury, results. whatever your money lens is. I don't want anyone in this room and anyone watching to be a one-note player. There are different notes to use at different times.
Now I've got a really special bonus clip that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, what was your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action for the next week? The science says that when you just watch a video, you get motivated, you get inspired, you have a 35% chance of following through on your goals. 35%! That's not enough. That's not enough just to get motivated. Believe Nation, we're here. You're here. Today matters. You're an action taker. When you commit to a plan of action of when and how you're going to follow through, when you write it down, you have a 91% chance of following through. And when you commit publicly to somebody else, it jumps to 95% chance. From 30-something% to 95% chance of you following through. Believe Nation, we need to make this happen. So question of the day, your single biggest takeaway from this video and your plan of action specific for the next week. Put it down in the comments below, and I'm going to show on screen sometime next week to celebrate you.
Mine was, I had some similarities with you. Growing up, middle class, we didn't have inheritance, summer houses, none of that stuff. And my mom stayed home with kids, my dad went to work. My parents told me, if you want to go to college, which of course you do because you're Indian, you got to pay, you got to find some scholarships. And I love building systems. I think people who are kind of lazy, they like to do the minimum amount of work, but I like maximum results. So I've built this system of applying to scholarships, and I started getting them. And for some reason, they wrote some of those checks to me. So 1999, 2000, took that money. I was like, I'm smart. I'm going to invest it in the stock market. And then I lost half the money right away. I was like, oh man, not that smart. So I started learning about money, and that was a really valuable lesson to me, because no matter what, you will get the kicked out of you at some point in life. And you can take two routes. You can be like, oh, that sucks, I'm never gonna do that again. Or you can be like, oh, that does suck, what did I learn from that? How can I improve? And I see this a lot with entrepreneurs I know who are starting to hire. They're like, oh, how do I hire like the project manager or whatever? I'm like, your first 5 hires are gonna be horrible. Just acknowledge it, it's gonna suck. But you gotta keep going, because you'll get better each time, and on your 6th, you'll be great. And it could be the same for, how do I find, it could anything that you're looking for. How do I find the right recipe to start cooking? Well, your first 20 times you make eggs, you're gonna suck. I didn't ever start the site to generate revenue. So it was a blog. In fact, I didn't generate a cent of revenue for about 3 years. And I didn't put ads, I didn't do anything, because I didn't want people to think that this was some way for me to make a quick buck. I mean, the name of the site alone,
Right.
it already kind of makes you like, who's this weird guy? So eventually, about 3 years after starting it, I said, I want to just try selling something on the site. I'd never sold anything online. And this was late 2006. Okay. So there weren't a lot of people selling a ton of stuff online, but I said, let me put together a small ebook. It was about 30 pages. And I sold it for $4.95. And I absolutely love this, because first of all, that number is so small. And now, we have courses that sell for over $12,000.
Yeah.
And yet that $5 ebook was the most scared I've ever been about selling anything. So remember, I'd been writing for free for 3 years, probably 3 to 5 times a week. I had a community that was really loyal. So these people there were like hundreds of comments on posts. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna post this. So I post the ebook. It was a good ebook, and it was beautifully designed. And I was afraid that people would call me a sellout, that people would say, oh, so this is a trick. You've just been building this up so you can sell. And actually, that's exactly what happened. I had people, and the comments are still live, you can go back and look at it, where people said, oh, I will teach me to be rich. And oh, so clearly you've jumped the shark. All these horrible things. And as an entrepreneur, that really hits you in the gut, because I felt betrayed that I had been doing this for free for years. And I felt that people were questioning my ethics, that why would I play a 3-year trick, right? And just all these, and also when you think about it, is selling really tricking someone? Right. No, I don't believe it is. But back then, I was scared to sell. I didn't think anyone would buy. I was selling from my heels, which means I was almost apologizing.
Right.
And so many entrepreneurs do that. Oh, I'm afraid. So what am I going to do? I'm going to lower my price.
Yeah.
That'll make them love me. and of course, all of those things were wrong. What stood out to me though was that while there were all these loud vocal minority commenters who were worthless, they were never going to buy no matter what.
Right.
There was a quiet group of people who were buying. And I could see the numbers. They were buying, they were sending me really positive emails, they were opening my emails more, so I could see the math. And I was kind of confused. How come there's this loud vocal minority of complainers, and then there are these people who are actually loving it and saying, what's next?
Right.
So that's when I made the decision that I didn't understand what was going on, but there was something going on here.
Yeah.
And I want to figure it out. And over the next 3 years, I dive deep into the psychology of selling, into how to create world-class products, pricing, basically how to create value that people are so happy to pay that price is a mere triviality.
What's a few simple things that they should be doing right now to have a checklist to do before the end of the year to then crush for a whole 12 months moving forward?
All right. I'm going to give you something called the ladder of personal finance, which tells you where your money should go. Okay, this is just step by step, put your money here. And if you want to know all the details about it, you can check out the system. So
it's in the book too?
It's in great detail in the book.
Got it.
All right. So if you've got some money lying around, what should you do with it? First of all, if you've got a 401k match at work, you should max that out. That's free money. Take advantage of it. And if you're not sure what that means, go to your HR person and say, does this company match any 401k contributions? If they say yes, do what I said. Next, if you've got debt, pay it off. Pay it off aggressively. You know, what's interesting is that most people in debt who I talk to don't actually know how much they owe. And that's shocking. You would think, of course they would know. No, they don't, because who wants to proactively
stare at their debt all day?
Yeah, and just feel bad about it.
Yeah.
But you know what? You feel much better when you have a plan. And the number one question I ask folks when they tell me they have debt, I say, number one, do you know how much you owe? They never do. Number two, for the rare people who say, you know, 15,000 or 70,000, whatever, I say, what is your debt payoff date? You can actually plug it in. You can plug in a debt payoff calculator online. You can map it all out, and you will be able to know the exact month your debt will be paid off.
Based on how much you're spending right now.
Based on how much you're contributing to that debt payoff. Now, you will be able to see that if you add an extra $50 a month or $100 a month, that thing will actually oftentimes shorten by years because of the interest. It doesn't matter if it's going to take you 3 months or 4 years to pay off your debt. It doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you know the date. Okay, so that's number two, pay off any debt you've got. 3, if you've got money left over, go to your Roth IRA. And if you can, max that out. That's a great tax advantaged account.
It grows tax deferred, is that right?
Yeah. Okay, so
that's 3.
That's 3. Okay, it's actually post-tax money. And then 4, if you still got money, you're going to go back to your 401k, which is another tax advantaged account. You're going to max that out. If you still got money, you're going to create a non-taxable, non-retirement account and just put your money in there. Now, there's a few other wrinkles to this. There's HSAs available. There's also your emergency fund that's talked about in the book, and all these things. They're details. But that just shows you, when you've got money, this is where you go. There's a structured way of thinking about it.
A ladder towards financial success.
Exactly. And if you follow the steps, it's almost like a waterfall. It just goes from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, and your money's going where it needs to go automatically, and you will feel great. You'll feel great, which is so important. And also, you're going to look at your accounts and see debt's going down. Investment and savings are going up.
After running this business for 12 years, I think my beliefs changed. I believe now that the world will always try to get you to be vanilla. The world wants you to do everything like them. They want you to lower your prices. The world will pull you down. They want you to make your website look like everybody else's. Easy, fast, secure. And the minute you do it, they abandon you.
I think that there are definitely systemic problems when it comes to things like inequality. When I think it comes to things like student loan debt, yes, those are problems, and there needs to be a lot of work done on those. And we can simply look at history to see how crazy tax rates are compared to where they've been historically, or how crazy student loan debt is compared to where it was historically. But whenever I hear someone who starts complaining about the, large-scale societal problems, I just have one question. I say, do you invest in your 401k? And it's one thing to talk about systemic problems, and we should talk about them and tackle them. But the best thing we can do for ourselves is to focus on what we can control. And that's what I believe. That's why I'm here. Some people work on systemic problems. I'm here to help people one-on-one with their money and their psychology.
Yeah, that to me is a very interesting and powerful approach. I come at it the same way. I was giving a talk at Google, and there was an African-American gentleman in the front row, and basically the question was like, is it harder for me? And my answer was, yes, that seems pretty apparent, but now what? So you can go try to tackle that systemic problem, and I'm super glad that there are people who are wired for that.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm always like, what can I do right now today? Because when you're dealing with huge systemic problems, you're doing something amazingly altruistic for the next generation, but the odds of you being able to reap the benefits of that are pretty slim.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. And I think that when you can start to take control and make one step after another, for example, for people who are in debt, it's so interesting. When people write me about how to get out of debt, over 90% of them don't know how much they owe. So if you don't know how much you owe, I understand that. Why would you want to open up the emails and the bills? You don't know what's inside, but you know it's bad. But the first step to doing that, to paying it off, is to open it up, confront reality, get real, and then make a plan. And all of those things can be done in and of yourself without regards to what's going on outside your house or outside your email inbox.
In college, you get interested in finance. How did you start getting that interest?
Another accident, which was I took that first scholarship I got and I invested it in the stock market. So they had written the check to me. This is 1999, 2000. I take that money. I think I know what investing is, which I don't. And I lose half of that immediately. That's not a good thing to do with your college scholarship money. So I was like, oh man. And I started studying personal finance. Now, finance and personal finance, very different things. If we look outside the street, we see investment bankers. They have nothing to do with money that you and I operate with on a daily basis. So I started reading, and I saw all these experts saying these old chestnuts we've heard over and over. Keep a budget, don't spend money on lattes, never go on never do anything with your money. Just sit at home like a hermit.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I was studying human psychology, I was studying persuasion, I was studying all these facets of human behavior at Stanford. And I just realized, like that book, The Emperor Has No Clothes, I realized that all this expert advice didn't actually work. So when people say keep a budget, great in theory, nobody keeps a budget. When people say don't spend money on lattes, great in theory, nobody listens to it. In fact, I don't even want to listen to it. Like I want to go out, I want to buy a round of drinks for my friends. I want to be able to go in a taxi if it's really hot outside, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And the experts spent the last 50 years telling us all the things we can't do with our money. And so I started developing a philosophy of what you can do and living a rich life. And that doesn't mean putting it all in a savings account and just counting your pennies every day. I think it actually means living life.
Sometimes I learned that people just aren't ready to buy, and that's just the way it goes. Like we had people that have been on our list for 6 years. They've seen some of these products be launched like 7, 14 times, and then one day they'll just buy randomly. And I see it come across my dashboard. I'm like, what is this? So I'll email them. Hey, notice you've joined finally after 7 years. What's up? And they'll tell us the most interesting things. They'll be like, oh, well, I tried to do it on my own. It didn't work, so I'm finally ready. Or, oh, I paid off my debt, or just because. And so my key lesson from that was just to be patient. If you've put the right process into place, if you've selected the right customers, if you've built the best products, you have the best marketing, our philosophy is it's just a matter of time.
So we grow up with these things I call invisible scripts. And these are the scripts that are beliefs that are so powerful, we don't even realize that they're around us. That's why they're invisible. So a classic one in America is the American dream is buying a house. Where did that come from? And in fact, there's all these phrases that people use like, you're throwing money away on rent. They don't make more land, and on and on and on. If you really deconstruct that and you actually run the numbers, you might discover that actually buying a house is often not the best investment. And this is super counterintuitive. People get really mad because real estate is religion in America. But if you actually dive in deep, you might discover, wow, there's a lot of parties who want me to spend a ton of money. That's why, for example, I could buy today, but I rent. And when people hear that, they're like, wait, I thought I will teach you to be rich, guys, rich, so why is he renting? They get very confused. because real estate is religion. You know, another thing that is really common today for people is there's no way to get ahead, right? Especially for young people. Social Security won't be around, et cetera, et cetera. And I just don't believe in that. I think if you go onto Reddit or you go onto these places where it's a lot of people who are disaffected young people, they create an echo chamber of other people who want to victimize themselves, then you have a choice. Do you want to be reading those threads? Or, like I was reading the comments on your YouTube videos. You will notice that a lot of these online entrepreneurs, what do they tend to brag about? Have you noticed? Number one, how much money they make.
Yes.
Number
two,
two,
how many subscribers.
How many subscribers. And number three, how big their team is. Have you ever noticed that? And also number four, how little they work. Oh, I make $1 million. I only work 2 days a year.
Yeah, give me a break.
Go F yourself. So you'll notice that we don't brag about how much money we make. We've mentioned a couple of times some remarkable results that we've generated, but we don't go around bragging about how much money we make. We don't brag about how many people we have. We don't brag about how little we work. I work a lot, and so does our team, and we love it. I would rather spend our time bragging about our students' results. And that's why you see us putting them front and center. We put their photos, we put their full links to their websites, we fly them into New York and do full case studies with them. Very expensive, but it's the right thing to do.
How does one become rich in an environment where there's 2% treasury rates and unemployment is high, it's difficult to get a job for a young person? How do you do that?
You know, I think there's a few ways of looking at it. And the first thing I would consider, especially based on psychology, is to focus on the big wins, right? So the latte example is bad advice because one, it doesn't work, and two, it's minutia. Saving $2 or $3 a day doesn't really do anything in the grand scheme of things, and it makes us feel guilty, right? Instead, if we get these 5 or 10 big wins right, we never have to worry about lattes or the size of our Diet Coke ever again. For example, starting to invest early, getting your asset allocation right, not buying real estate simply because you think it's the best investment, like so many people believe.
There is room in the market for the best. The things that we do in product development and growth and customer service and all the groups that we have, it's about craftsmanship. It's about spending whatever it takes to build the best product. We do test, we do A/B test, we do all of that. But taking the time, because when we launch something, we know that it has to be the best. That's how we honor the students who joined our programs. There's room in the market for the best. Don't ever let the market pull you down. You should pull the market up with you.
If you take somebody and you just talk, I do this a lot. They'll be at one of my talks or they are on my newsletter or following me on Instagram. And I'll give you an amazing example that just happened recently. I had a woman who wrote me and she said, Ramit, can you help me convince my husband not to waste money? And I go, okay, what's going on? She goes, he spends so much money on iced tea. And I was like, here we go. I go, how much money? And she goes, he buys iced tea 20 times a month, like almost every day. I said, how much is this iced tea? And she said, it's $1.50 each time. So in my head, I'm like, this is insane. Like, why are we even talking about this? Right. But I knew there's something here, so I want to unpack it. I said, out of curiosity, what's your household income? No response for 20 minutes. Okay, and then finally she comes back, she goes, I'm not comfortable sharing that. So I said, just give me a range. Okay, what do you think her and her husband's household income is?
I know the story. I would have guessed otherwise. 80,000, 100,000.
Like a nice 600,000. And this is a perfect example. Like rationally and logically, we should literally not be talking about this because it's a rounding error. But there's something going on in her belief system that made her fixate on iced tea. And so for anybody, whether it's iced tea or whether it's, lattes is a classic example. Everybody tells you not to spend money. I'm like, that's the worst advice ever. Buy as many lattes as you want. Or some people, they just love, for example, clothes, right? I like clothes. They love it. But everybody around him has told him things like, that's shallow, that's a waste of money, you should invest in your Roth IRA. And so what do? All of us, we're torn apart because we live in a paradoxical society that is both puritanical, telling us we should retreat into a cave and do nothing, but then we go on Instagram and everyone's in Bora Bora wearing, it's ridiculous. And so what do? We just buy everything and then we feel guilty. It's the worst possible response. So what I do is, first I say, what do you love spending money on? Love. And nobody talks about this. They always say, oh, let me see your budget, you're overspending, and everyone's just like, forget this. Right? I'll never come on here and berate someone for their spending because I've seen it all. When they talk about what they love, then I say, what would it feel like to be able to spend 2 times or 4 times as much on that? And people have never thought like that. Then, once we start from a place of aspiration, of what do we want, let's work through the mechanics of how to get there. It's something I encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to think about. I think a lot of people, they will go from their full-time job, quit, they have very meager savings, and suddenly they're like, this has to work. Well, now you've put yourself in a bad position.
Yeah.
So either start it while you have a full-time job, do it on the side, and don't tell me you don't have time, you have time. And the second thing is, build up your savings. Your savings are gonna give you the runway or the flexibility to try different things. A business is not easy, especially going from 0 to 1. It's pretty hard. The average of the 5 people you're surrounded with, that is a very powerful idea. And instead of closing the door on the people you hang out with, why not open the door to some new people? Why not find people who go to your conference, for example, or who are on my side, people who are ambitious, who have gone through these programs, and say, you know what, can we set up a weekly check-in? It could be 5 minutes, it could be over text, but let's set up this check-in and just say, what'd you want to do last week? Did you execute? Why or why not? Every week, 9 a.m., Monday, let's do it. That's how you suddenly meet a group of people who are unapologetically ambitious. And that will change everything for you, because instead of having to drag people to these self-development conferences and they say, that's weird, I don't want to do it. The people you actively seek out are going to be like, yeah, I'm in, let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah, so find the new communities that you can have these conversations with.
Yeah.
And don't cut everyone out of your life, but just start having those conversations with people that are more aggressive.
Yeah, like, do you know what I told people to do on my Instagram account? So I told people it's important to find other people who support you. A lot of you are waiting around for some like millionaire to fall out from the sky and invite you to their private group. It's never gonna happen, never. Instead, why don't you start it yourself? And I said, go into my comments, write who you're looking for, and then invite someone to join you.
I like that.
You don't need to wait. No one's coming to rescue you. It's not a Disney movie. Nobody's coming. It's only you.
How do you go from a group of people who complain about a $4.95 ebook to a group of people who are delighted to pay tens and tens of thousands of dollars? How do you create a community of 30,000 loyal, happy customers? These are consumers. These are people like you and me. They're in this room. And they are spending thousands of dollars once and then doing it again and again. And in fact, when they buy, their top criteria, not even their top 5 criteria, is about price. We do a ton of research. We collect hundreds and hundreds of thousands of data points. This is one, we ask people, why did you not join our course? Look at the comments. It's too expensive. Another pivotal moment here. The world will try to drag you down in price. Silicon Valley will try to drag you down in price and say, nobody would pay for that. People don't pay for insert blank topic here. And if they do, they'll only pay $5 a month. Well, we don't believe that. We actually believe that there's room in the market to be the best. And we mean build the best products, select the best customers, and service them in the best way. We have no intention of playing in the $5, $50, $100 market. I'd rather give away our content than play in that market. So how do we do this? The key insight I learned was, don't just listen to the first response, because that's politically correct. That's what they'll tell you. But when you build something that is so good, it solves such a big burning pain in their life, then price is a mere triviality. And if you think about it, we intuitively know this. We all have something in our life that we would pay anything for. Maybe it's a business class ticket for your mom to come visit you so she can stretch out her legs, right? Maybe it's a beautiful leather jacket. Maybe it's a bag of chips. You just love these chips, whatever. We all have something we would pay anything for. And the same can be true for your products as well.
There are some people around us who just seem like they are born with natural confidence. You know who I'm talking about. They're super smooth, super confident. They always know the right thing to say. Think about President Obama. He just seems like a smooth guy. Think of one of his famous "Yes, we can" rally speeches. Not being political here, just talking about his oratorical skills. What do you notice about how he speaks? He's powerful. He's decisive. He speaks slowly and almost never stumbles or stutters. His points are clear and they're to the point. He's the epitome of confidence when it comes to a speaker on stage. So when you look at somebody like him, it's very easy to assume that he has some innate ability that he was born with. Either you have it or you don't. But the truth is, confidence is a skill. And President Obama, just like all confident people, built that skill. He practiced it over a lifetime. So here's a simple example of how you can control your confidence in less than 20 seconds. Take something you routinely say, like what you did this weekend, and change the way you say it. I want you to channel your inner super confident person. It could be Barack Obama, it could be Susan Sarandon, it could be whoever you want. Don't focus on who it is. Don't even worry about what you say. Instead, focus on changing how you say it. Sit up straight, speak slowly, and imagine what you're saying is incredibly important because the people listening want to hear it. Let me show you an example, a little before and after. I can't even remember. I mean, I think it was pretty good. It was actually pretty crazy, but I just went to a movie and saw some friends, you know, the usual, I guess. Now let's compare the after. We had a great weekend. I was with the kids on Saturday. Then Michelle and I caught a Broadway show and finished the night at that new sake bar downtown. Now, what'd you notice? Notice first that I'm intentionally using someone else to role play. This really lets us get into play acting without worrying about our own life, our own Saturday. Ooh, maybe I don't have as cool of a life as going to a sake bar. Don't worry about that. All we're doing here is working on our delivery. Remember, nobody sees inside of you. They don't see how confident you are, how much work you spent practicing. All they see is the way you answer a question or the way you sit when you're talking to them. So when it comes to confidence, confidence can actually come from the outside in, not just from the inside out, which is what everybody tells you. So instead of waiting for it to just magically appear, where's my confidence? Where is it? We're actually changing our behavior, something everyone can do, and we're letting the confidence follow. The external influences the internal. And once you master this concept, you can apply it to a lot more than just how you speak and how you sit. When anyone says, you know, I bought a business class ticket, notice the almost instinctive reaction. It's like, this, you know, what a show off. And all these other things that come along with it. And I want to challenge people. I have this principle I call the D2c Principle. And it, instead of being derisive and saying, oh, so stupid, that's ridiculous, I would never do that. I actually want to encourage everyone to be curious. Why would a guy like Lewis intentionally spend money on a business class ticket? Man, he earns good money. He has a lot of options. He must know something that I don't. And I want to understand why. So from D to C, and if you start to take that perspective, especially on high earners and how they spend their money, all of a sudden you stop saying, that's ridiculous, or if I had $1 million, I would never do that. Instead you say, why did that person spend on that? And I want to know. Maybe I don't agree. Maybe, you know, you become a multimillionaire and you don't want to spend on business class, you just don't care. But it's interesting that you do it, and I'd like to know more. If you go to this site, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, you can see the names of the products, but you can't buy. Why? Because I don't want you to go and just look at the course and just say, do I like this or not? Do I feel like, it's not a pack of gum. These are works of art that we spent years and millions of dollars building and testing. And so what I want to do, instead of just trying to get money quickly, I want to build a relationship. So the only thing you can do, you can read 12 years of free material, you can look at our thousands of YouTube videos, but if you want to know more, then I want to send you free material through our email list. And so you can see there's lots of places to sign up to get tons of bonus material. Now, if you do that, suddenly you and I have a relationship, and I can send you emails and on and on. So we have, you know, many hundreds of thousands of people who are on our email list, and they get emails from us 4 or 5 times a week. Isn't that a lot?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people, I've heard that I email more than people's girlfriends, boyfriends, moms, dads. I say I love it because our emails break all the rules. They're really long. People say, oh, nobody has time. Make it quick. Wrong. If you have something interesting to write, people will read 20-page long emails.
Wow.
And we don't allow people to buy until the time is right.
Who here has felt some sort of rejection in the last 30 days with your business? Come on, don't bullshit me. Everybody does. And the crazy part is they won't tell you the truth. They'll never say, you spent the last 4 years of your life building a photo sharing app, and the truth is, I don't really care if my photos aren't organized. They'll never tell you that. They'll just be like, I think the price is a little high. Remember that $5 ebook I created? I had people who were like, Ramit, love the ebook, but I don't trust PayPal, but I do trust the US Postal Service. So if you could set up a PO box, in fact, I'll buy 2 copies. And like naive Ramit in 2006, I was like, okay. So I actually set up a PO box and I was like waiting, like where's my bushel full of checks? And over the course of an entire year, I received 1 check for $4.95. Don't make my mistakes. The thing is, they'll never tell you why. They'll never tell you why. So I want to show you how we handle no's. Here's a script. I'd like to show it to you. This is from a student of ours who applied for a program. He was accepted, and then he didn't join. Let me read it to you. Hi, Karthik. I noticed you were interested in testing blah, 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 and you filled out the application, but you didn't sign up. How come? The course is closed now, but I just wanted to reach out and find out what's up. So this is written very intentionally. First, people don't like to be told, hey, you said you were going to do something, and then you didn't do it. They don't like it. But we still want to find the answer to our question. So we did a couple things in this email, and we've tested this. 1, we kept it really short. 2, it's super conversational. Notice the phrases, how come? Or let me know what's up. Sometimes we say, out of curiosity. We're not saying, we're not being super corporate about it. And then 3rd, we have to be really clear. We're not trying to sell. In fact, the course is now closed. We cannot collect your money. We don't want it. We get massive responses. So if you have had people who are on your email list or in your customer base, they have not bought something from you, you're sitting on a gold mine. The type of answers we get from this are amazing. They'll say things like, well, I'd love to join, but course looks awesome, but I'm in Australia and I can't fly to New York. We're like, dude, it's an online course. But that's not their fault, it's our fault for not communicating that. Or we get people who say, this course looks amazing, but it's really expensive and I can't convince my husband or wife to buy into it. That's actually really valuable, so now we can add that to our FAQ. So we collect these data points at every stage of the customer experience. Before the product, in the product, if they refund, et cetera, et cetera.
Why is it hard for us to talk about money? Why is it scary? Yeah. Why don't we talk about it enough with our friends, our family? Why is that?
There's one great study showing people would rather talk about their sex lives than their amount of credit card debt.
I love that.
I think that's totally true.
It's true.
100%. And think about what money means. It means that you were successful in this culture. And I am here, people know me as the I will teach you to be rich guy. And I have always said money is an important but small part of living a rich life. Just because you make more or less doesn't mean we're better friends. Not at all, has nothing to do with that. But it is important for people to be in control of their money, whether they're making $15 an hour or $15,000 an hour. And there are people I know who make that. So that just simply shows, are you in control of your life at whatever level you are? It's embarrassing for people. They're never taught this. And then suddenly they graduate and they're supposed to know what tax withholding is and what a 529 and 401k and all this crazy stuff is. Yeah. Nobody taught it to them. So my goal here, the reason I'm talking about this, is for people to feel more confident about their money, for them to take control, and for them to stop being afraid and listening to random people giving them advice.
Who are your money mentors? Who's been your mentors?
I've studied most of the greats, and I read their stuff. I think it's absolutely fascinating to know from different types of investors, different types of personal finance personalities, but the people that influence me most come from the world of psychology. They come from different worlds. So we have an amazing professor, BJ Fogg, one of my mentors. Brian Wansink at Cornell, who wrote an amazing book, Mindless Eating, which is so close to money. It's just about food. All these guys, Cialdini, of course, who teach us about the true theoretical psychology of why we do what we do. Those are the people who actually influence me the most.
I actually want to make the case against extreme frugality. Everybody, everywhere you turn, you hear people telling you what you can't do with your money. No lattes, no jeans, no vacations, save it up in a little treasure box, and then one day, when you can't even see anymore, then you'll be able to take the greatest vacations of your life. Who wants to live like that? I would rather you set your automatic savings goals, you set your automatic investing goals, and then you take the rest of your money, your guilt-free money, and you spend it extravagantly on the things you love. One way, very simple, when you go to the grocery store, maybe you buy a bunch of pre-cut vegetables. Now, when I was growing up, my mom thought this was a huge waste of money. I now think it's a great use of money because it buys back my time. Another thing you can do, a lot of people live in New York, hire a dog walker. You have a dog, you may not have time to walk that dog in the middle of the day, boom, dog walker, done. And then as you become even more successful or more strapped for time, there are even more ways that you may want to spend your money. You may want to hire an assistant to help plan your travel. You may want to spend for a business class flight because when you arrive, you're getting straight to work. These are all different ways that you can be thinking of buying back your time. As a general rule of thumb, I want you to be saving 5 to 10% of your take-home income, and I want you to be investing 10% of your take-home income. If you do that, you're on a good track. And that means that the rest of your money after your fixed expenses like your rent or your mortgage is guilt-free money.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from Kevin O'Leary, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Nobody's happy 100% of the time. That's not how life works, my friends. It just doesn't work that way.
I would personally rather invest someone who has felt the sting of failure